Deep. Wow, that's gonna surprise me.
I said I'm recording.
Oh, I did not hear that. I was singing running up that hill, and then I just hear recording, and I went, oh,
Maybe it wouldn't. Maybe it didn't catch that. Who knows? Okay.
another week down. Stephen and I were just talking about this. The ending of the season literally will solely determine where this season falls in terms of how good it is. Because up to this point, almost everything we were talking, there's only been 1 week, that being Cassidy's eviction, that hasn't left some sort of a bitter taste in our mouth. Whether we're impressed with the gameplay or not, it's either the way that someone's left, as in like they've put in no effort and they've quit and been a sore loser, or it's someone that had so much potential but got screwed over, or it like just whatever it may be, bitter taste. And literally there are now more options for a not spectacular winner than there are for good winners. And that's a scary notion.
I was gonna say we have to watch our mouths because we did not have video rankings back in season one, and I don't know who would be our friends still if we had video rankings back in season one.
Um,
And you know what I mean by that.
just very, very interested to see where this goes.
I'm
The
so
hope
I am
for the season,
terrified.
I'm scared. Because truly season one was the last time that I can think where in the end I've gone, oh no.
Literally.
I didn't feel this way in two. I did not feel this way in three. I did
Well, I
not feel this
didn't. I
way
did
in
in
four.
nine.
Um,
A little bit of like the final
I
final five. I was really scared.
in season five, you could argue it was a little scary, but I mean, it was never in question really. Season six, season seven, all pretty good people in the end.
Hmm.
Season eight, no question.
Well, okay.
There was no question in terms of like there were lots of options. There's always a weak point.
I was worried that Isabel, the jury, was gonna be like, "Oh my god, Isabel," you know.
Um, just on the whole in the end game, like there was Dalton, Wick, and Rocky.
Yeah.
A majority of good winners. Um,
And it, I can't. I'm not gonna say anything.
it's just I hope that it works
Isabel wouldn't
out
have been the worst. What I was gonna say.
because this season has the potential to be, at best, in my opinion, a B tier season. At
Yeah.
best,
Both.
at worst, it could be bottom three, maybe bottom two. We'll see. We'll see.
Oh my god,
This
I'm
week,
so scared. But let's do this.
this week, Maris won HOH. One of like clutch competition win. I was very excited to see Maris win. I won't lie.
Hmm.
Um, and Haley won the veto, which, listen, Dan can say all he wants. He got screwed by the comp wins, but I think Dan goes home over Haley too. Um, so if anything, I think Anthony and Victoria were majorly saved by the fact that that Haley won the veto, so that they didn't have to expose themselves to Kristen, who,
Hmm.
in all honesty, is probably targeting them anyway. So very interested to see. I did not want Burger Queen to make it to the end together, but I don't want them to fracture so much so that none of them do. And then we're left with the other people. So I worry that may happen. So let's dive into the rankings.
Let's do it. We're dwindling. Okay, Anthony.
Anthony. Um, this week itself was a great week for Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
He's made it to the final five now with never touching the block.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing who's HOH, I think it's most likely that that'll change this week.
Mm-hmm.
But still, final five, like that is nothing to scoff at. He got Dan out. We said Anthony missed a shot in the triple, and there's one other chance that he'll get that shot, and that was this last week. And listen, shot was taken and shot hit. If Dan did not go home this week, Anthony's chances go down the drain, in my opinion. So he is now very much in it. The major glaring issue for Anthony is with Dan gone. And granted, like I do think Dan needed to go. There was nothing to avoid this if he wanted to have a chance to win. But with Dan gone, Anthony is now the glaring big target front runner to win the game in terms of like everyone's talking about it, both on the jury and in the game, unless your name is Maris and you can't speak because you need a brain to get your mouth to move.
So true.
So Anthony's, I think, chances of going home just went up. However, I think his chances to win went up more. Like if both chances were here, I think Anthony's chances of going home went here.
Both go
But
up
his
every
chances
time
to
someone else.
win, but his chances to win just went up a lot. So I'm gonna raise my score, but only to a 7.
Yeah, so I look at this now because this was a good week for Anthony. Like if he, oh my god, if he fucked up and did not evict Dan, I would have been very upset.
Luckily, Anthony was never considering it. We'll get to other people.
But I look at this next week and I'm like, if he or Victoria don't win HOH, which they did, but at the time they don't win HOH, he's most likely going home. And now we can look at it because we know who's HOH, but this doesn't affect my score, obviously. Kristen's HOH, probably going to nominate Anthony and Maris.
If not Anthony and Victoria.
If Anthony doesn't come off that block, I don't see a world where he doesn't go home. Like, and unless Victoria wins the veto and takes him off, Victoria's probably going home, which is also terrible for him. But that being said, I think he can beat anybody here in a final 2. So it's like this is where we ran into a problem with Grace last season. It was like if he gets to the end, he's winning probably against anybody. But his chances of getting there right now are low. Like he needs to win. And unlike Grace, he does not have that capability.
He doesn't have that guaranteed capability.
No. Like Grace, we knew like
Anthony can do it. But Grace, we were like, she's gonna like
yeah.
Yeah.
And who was second place in Domino Effect?
Kristen.
Oh, Kristen? Okay. And then Victoria. So
no, Victoria got like 50 minutes, did she not?
Oh, I was thinking about BB Comics. Yeah, you're totally right. Yeah, Victoria got like an hour. Yeah, you're totally right. Okay.
Anthony was 3rd.
So with that being said, honestly, because of how much I think he's probably gonna go home this week, if he doesn't win or if Victoria doesn't win, or whoever's off the block doesn't win, whatever. I was gonna give him a 6. But like he has such a good case against anybody here that I would give him an 8. So I'm gonna also stay right in the middle that I'm gonna give him a 7. I'm like if he's still here.
Exactly. If he makes it through this week,
that's
gonna skyrocket. I'm now thinking about it. I don't know why in my mind. I've confidently decided in my mind that Kristen, of course, would never put up Haley this week. I just checked her DR and her checks, and there's actually nothing to support that claim.
I don't think she will.
I'm just thinking back to her plea to stay, and she said verbatim, I will put up Maris and Haley.
If Vic wins, Maris is going to blow up my game, so me or Haley need to win. I think she's riding with Haley.
I really hope so. I really hope so.
Also,
we'll talk about Kristen in more detail.
For the good of the season, I hope not. I'd love to have Anthony here still, but we'll see.
Now, for the good of the season, I want Kristen to ride with Haley. Let's be very clear.
I don't want Anthony to go.
But I want Anthony to ride with the golden power of veto. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where Anthony is. I don't think Haley's gonna be touching the block this week unless like it's forced. All right, Dan.
Dan, I'm gonna get the negative stuff out of the way. And the only negative things that I have to say about Dan is quit your whiny bitchiness. Oh my God. Literally, Alex did the same thing.
That's the same
Shut
question.
up. You just played one of the best games that Big Brother
Literally.
franchise has seen. One of the best games. Like this makes top 10, probably top 5. No, like this is a great game that Dan played. And he lands himself on the block and he was like, it was all for nothing. Clearly I sucked. I'm going home now with nothing to do. I'm like, shut up. Rarely the best player of the season wins the season. Like, let's just be frank. I love all of our winners dearly, but rarely does the singular best player, front runner of the season, and when I say best player, I mean like the front runner big threat that's clearly playing the best game. They usually don't win the season. I do think the best player always ends up winning because, like they win.
That's the
But
game.
like take a look at season 3. Juliana was not the best front runner. Dalton was not the best front runner. You had people like Wick. You had people like Dan in season 5, or in, well, sure, but in season 3 is what I meant to say. You have who's another example? Those are the two major examples.
Wick really stands out.
The Eliav
Yeah.
of season 9, I guess, kind of fits that pigeonhole. Cookie cutter pigeonhole. I don't know. So like Dan had a tough time making it to the final 2. Quit whining about it.
And
He just played a
also,
great game.
also like week 3, I was like, this is gonna catch up to Dan. Like early mid jury, this is gonna catch up to him. He made it a lot farther than I thought he was going to. Like,
Listen, I will just say I took a look back at our predicted final 6s the other day.
yeah.
And they were pretty close in some cases. I mean, I had Anthony, Dan. No, I mean neither of us had Haley. You had Maris. I had Dan. We both had Kristen and Anthony. And then I had
Riley, I think.
I was gonna say you had I mean we both had Matthew. I had Alex, you had Riley. Yeah, so there was a couple of things. But like I don't know, Dan, the fact that he made it this far was exceptional. So he should be very like Dan, be very proud of yourself. And I don't want to hear it was all for nothing. I played a bad game. Shut up. No one wants to hear it. You were in the number 1 position, the number 1 or number 2 position, literally the whole time this season.
Okay.
Take this
That
as a
being
compliment.
said,
I also say I'm done this.
wait,
I
hold on.
refuse to give Dan a red score. His game does not deserve it. And truly, this was just the shot finally hit. So I'm gonna give Dan a 5.
Interesting. I'm thinking about this week that happened. Couldn't play an HOH. Worst case scenario was that Maris won the HOH. He could not save himself from the block. He was actually the first eliminated in the veto competition, I'm pretty sure, after Victoria, who couldn't play. Haley won the veto, which was exceptionally bad for him. And so it was like there was nothing more he really could have done except like do better in the veto competition. So it's like I feel the same way. But I feel like for someone who was evicted, I'm gonna give him a 4.
Okay.
And this is not his. This might be the first time someone's evicted score is not lower than their other score. Like this isn't their lowest.
Oh,
score.
there are going to be multiple people lower than Dan this week. Let's make that very clear.
No, I meant like this is the first time that it's not his own lowest score.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, he's got this dip right here. When that's really funny. Okay, Haley.
Okay.
Okay, first of all, legend of clutch competition wins. First of
Yeah,
all, I'm gonna
literally.
say that. If
Go, go,
Haley,
go.
if I love Haley for nothing else, it's that somehow she's good at every type of competition.
I was gonna say, people like, listen, love Caitlin Powell to death, love Alex to death, but all this talk of like, oh, you're a comp threat. I'm like, listen, comps generally can go very randomly.
Hmm.
It takes a lot for me to say that someone's a comp threat.
Agreed.
Haley Falkenberg is a competition, like not only a threat, like competition, like alerts and alarm bells should be flaring. That the
Like
country's
if
in
she's
danger.
playing a
That's the threat
competition
we're
and
looking
it's
at.
I know it's something she's good at, I assume she's winning.
Yeah, literally, I assume she's winning. Um, and if she's not winning, she's getting second place. Like, you know what I mean?
It's
It's like if she
crazy.
doesn't win, she loses by a very small margin.
This is the second. This actually, she won the counting competition last season too, and she won
Um,
this week. So
yeah, like so I think just by that alone is gonna like has a spectacular chance to win her way to the end. The biggest thing she's up against is once again her win equity is very low because when you come back into the game after so long, you need to make moves and play balls to the walls. We saw David do it in season one, and textbooks wise, that should have worked had he had better people skills. Um, but like that's the game that you want to play. And Haley's game really has been let me sit on the outs and be friends with Kristen and then win competitions. That's great. But again, this is yet another week. In week 12, there was only 1 week where Haley has not been safe or evicted. I don't think of there's not a lot of wiggle room for Haley to be able to stand in front of a jury and say, I deserve to beat these people. There are some people, but not a lot of people. So, um, for that reason, like, but for all of this being said, though, I'm actually going to raise my score on Haley. I'm
me
going to give
too.
Haley a 5 as well.
I actually am going right there as well. Um, because if you look at it, like unless something crazy happens and like Victoria not on the block wins the veto this week, Haley's not touching the block this week. We're assuming. Um,
And granted, also my 5 is not based on the fact that Kristen won HOH.
yeah.
It's based on the fact that she clutch won a
Well, even
veto.
just going into this week, I feel like no matter who won, I feel like whoever she sits next to is a bigger threat than her.
Um,
Maybe
I would be interested to see. Well, no, a bigger threat, yes, but like I think, say it ended up being like Haley versus Maris, I think Haley ends up going home.
yeah,
Um, like I do think it depends. I just think her chances are higher. I mean, going into this week, she is a very much. If she was here the whole time, I would say she is going to win this veto, no question. Um, I think Kristen and Anthony are also in the mix for this upcoming veto. I'll be very interested to see. Um, so yeah, like I'm really interested to see what happens.
yeah. And then she's won the web before. I think I'm debating what we should if we're able to give her anything. Like, what about comp slides? Is she allowed to have those?
We just we can just not ask things about things that she doesn't
Okay,
have.
we'll talk later about
Yeah.
it. Okay. Kristen
I
Ray.
think I've started the last 3 or 4 rankings like this, but I'm gonna do it one more time. Love Kristen. I'll be
This
quite frank.
season will all be worth it if she wins.
Literally, Kristen, right? We were saying there are very few places where we have hope pinned. One of those places is Anthony, but his chances of getting to the end, I think, are slimming. Kristen, rake, win, challenge. That's your competition. That's your final competition. Win.
If she loses the crossword again and
Oh my
gets
god,
evicted,
I
I
can't. I can't have it.
swear to God. And the flashback slide says like, "Who will avenge Kristen and win this competition?" And I hope it's Kristen. I hope she loses part 1 to play part 2 and win. That's all I want for the entire season.
Oh my god. I'm so scared. To be quite frank, going into this week, Anthony and Victoria were targeting Haley. Maris was targeting Haley. Haley was looking to split up Anthony and Vic. Kristen was looking to do that. And this last week's eviction, there was really no question that Kristen was ever going to stay. Maris did not want to put her up on the block. Kristen and Dan, her biggest threat, is now out of the game. I was at a 9 last week. Literally, the only singular sole reason that I am not at a 10 is because Dan leaving was at the final 6 still a big enough detriment. Yes, Dan could not have been in the end with her. I don't think. Even though I do think, and I want to put this on the record, Kristen has played a smarter game than Dan.
But
Dan
Dan
has played
does
the more
not cut her
dominant.
ever.
Huh?
I said Dan does not cut her ever.
Exactly.
So
Dan
it's
does not
bad
cut
that
her.
he's gone because
I'm glad that he's gone because I was scared for a moment that Kristen would not cut Dan.
I said that's bad that he's gone because there's no scenario where Dan ever chooses to cut Kristen over not Kristen.
No, I agree with that, but I
But
think if
yes,
Dan
I
chooses to
agree
cut him
also
too,
that.
Kristen loses the game.
But that's what I'm saying.
Maybe undeservedly so, but
She
I don't
needed to
think
lose him later, but now was not the time.
I
That's
was
why.
gonna say that Dan was a huge asset to her getting further in the game, and now she's won HOH, which is great, and like we know that now. But going into this week, we did not. So although she was no one's target with these end game weeks, it takes one person to win a competition, and everything unravels. So with that being said, I am still very impressed. I really, really, really hope I can give her a 10 after this week. Right now, I am at a 9.4, and therefore I cannot round up. So it is a 9 once again for me.
Actually, this week I'm still at an 8. Um, honestly, I feel like lose it. Like I agree with you 100%. She needed to cut Dan at the end. I don't know. I mean, I would love to ask her at the end of this, but I don't know if she was going to. She definitely should have if that was the case. But losing some, especially since we didn't know she was HOH, losing someone who in all scenarios will keep you in the final 5, final 4, and final 3, and not having that person and having like Victoria here instead, who will do the same for Anthony, that's bad. Like that's not good. So I hope she realizes this week she needs to split them up like immediately because they will always take each other before they even think about Kristen.
And listen, Kristen has been like put on the record, has said that multiple times, has been saying it for weeks that they need to be split up.
Mhm.
And if Anthony goes, all of a sudden, I think Haley looks to bring Kristen to the end.
Mm-hmm.
I think Victoria looks to bring Kristen to the end. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think Victoria wants to go to the end with Maris. Like Victoria wants to be there with Burger Queen.
Mm-hmm.
And her first choice is definitely Anthony. But if Anthony's out of the game, like Kristen really for her game, for Kristen's game, needs Anthony out this week. For the game, I want to see Anthony here. But for Kristen's chances, Anthony going home is amazing. So we'll see. Like if Anthony goes home this week, I
Yeah,
very easily give Kristen the 10 next week.
I probably agree. I mean, we'll assess at the end of the week, but
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see.
I want to give her the 10.
I'm very
But
impressed.
I feel too shaky on her position right now to even go up to a 9. But I really like this was not good for this week was not good.
It wasn't good. Yeah, for me, it's the having the threat of Dan out of the game is huge for Kristen. Having the
But
ally,
that could
having
have gone late.
let me
Like gone
finish. I'm
later.
not done.
You just saying the
Having
same thing as before.
the threat level of Dan out of the game is huge. Having the ally of Dan out of the game is huge. For me, those two things counteract each other, and that's why I went neither up nor down.
Interesting. Okay.
Especially because Kristen is not the next. It wasn't like great. Now Dan's gone, and now Kristen's next. I think Kristen is still secure with people.
Okay, let's move on. Maris. Maris wasn't dumb this week. That's how we're gonna start off this ranking.
No, I disagree personally. It statistically, and granted, it's like her being. She put Haley on the block. That was statistically that was bad. It should not have been Haley, Dan, and initial noms. Statistically, it should have been Dan and Kristen. Luckily for her, if she left Haley off the block, Haley wins the veto, saves Kristen, Anthony, and Victoria have to go up, and one of them goes home. So it worked out. I will not say that it did not work out for her, but
she knew.
It's like a broken clock is right twice a day. You know what I mean? There was a chance that this happened. So with that being said, I also have to say it takes a lot for you to be the HOH that takes out the biggest threat in the game, and for you to still have no respect from a jury because you played that bad of a game. It takes a lot. It is coming in to this ranking. Literally, I was like, I cannot give Maris any higher than a 2. I can't because she can't win. But I am going to raise my score to a 3. Maris's highest score in the last 5 weeks. No, that's not true. I'm going to raise my score to a 3 because, and it's truly not because of like her, like the jury impression of her has gotten any better, but it is because, and we'll talk about other people.
The only person left.
Maris, at the very least, has played the game. Does that stack up against people that played the game well? No. Maris will never beat Kristen. Maris will never beat Anthony. And Maris, I'm not necessarily convinced, should beat Haley. However, at least Maris, if she gets to the end, has a case of here's the game that I played. A lot of it is Anthony's game and what was best for Anthony. But at least she physically did things.
I agree with this.
At least she physically did things and can say things that she did at the end. That is like literally the most basic of benchmarks.
Yeah.
And and don't get me wrong. This should not Paris, if you're watching this, you should not be coming out of this going, yeah, this is good. Like, no, the benchmark that you're hitting is you can say that you did things during the game. I did not say good things. I did not say smart things.
Actually, we actually said bad things.
I would say you can, in fact, you can actively say I made actively bad moves to get Anthony to where he is now.
Correct.
However, you can say that you actively made moves. For that, you get a 3. And because Dan coming out was good for Maris. It was good for Maris. So
I was actually thinking the same exact thing. I like at the end of the day, yes, it wasn't what she planned, but it definitely worked out for her this week. And people have been trying to get Dan out for a long time. So the fact that she was able to do it,
it's nothing but a meme.
Honestly,
I'm not impressed. At this point in the game, what else is she gonna do?
I want to say this. What I would love, I don't think this is going to happen, to have a Maris, Anthony, Kristen final 3. Maris wins final HOH, cuts Anthony, so that Maris has taken out every member of appeasing Miss Mastermind. Would love that. Was the vote to take out Cassidy, was HOH to take out Dan, and is the final HOH to take out Anthony.
That would be funny, but I don't care enough to see that.
Well, Kristen still wins the game, so.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm giving her a 3 as well. Because I mean, okay, here's my thing. I'm wondering if the jury at any point sways in this stance at all against a Haley or against a Victoria. But we shall see. Okay. Victoria.
This is my big thing with Victoria. Stephen was the one to say this, but I'll echo it first to put it on the record because I love getting people mad at me in the rankings. It's
I'm
my
gonna say,
thing.
oh great, at least you're putting my word on the record.
Victoria, I mean, everyone loves to complain. Oh, Haley wasn't here for half the game. She did more than Victoria. Like, take Haley's 6 weeks that she's been here. That's been more game played than Victoria has in the 12 weeks that she's been here. Victoria has done nothing but win comps and ask Anthony what to do. And if she ever does think for herself, actively makes the wrong move. In like the 1 or 2 cases that's happened. Dan going home for Victoria also I don't think was good because Dan for better or for worse for Dan, but like would have taken Anthony and Victoria further. I'm giving Victoria a 2 because she just does not deserve to win.
I was the 2 last week, wasn't I?
Yeah, I was at the 3.
Yeah, and I'm staying at my 2. Same reason.
Um,
And I'm looking at all these rankings. And I'm like, this feels right. This is the order that I want people to be at. I think, to be really honest.
and also it's like, and I want to express this personally. I love Victoria. I'm so happy that we've been able to talk to her more again lately. I haven't talked to her in so long.
Years, I feel like.
Like it literally has felt like forever. I love Victoria. She does not deserve to win the game in
Yeah,
the kindest way. And did not deserve to win the game.
I agree. We're really gonna have to tell people before the season. Disclaimer before you watch the rankings. We are mean as fuck. Like,
Sorry.
we're brutally honest. I don't think we've ever been this honest before. We did not hold anything back this season. Oh my gosh.
Oh no. I'm gonna like listen, I'm already thinking about like certain rankings that people are gonna watch back and I'm gonna go, oh yeah. Maybe they don't want
It was the
to.
same thing with I remember a specific person in season 5. But we'll talk about it later.
Oh.
All right, that's it. Kristen's on top, right with Anthony right behind. Victoria's on the bottom with Maris right above. Dan's a
This is the
victim.
exact thing. Yeah, let's look at the A tier green winners, the B tier winner, and then the red tier F winners.
I don't even know because I feel like I'd rather have Maris win over Haley.
I need to see what happens the rest of the game.
Yeah, me too. Okay, that's it.
Ugh.
Okay, bye. If I can find the button again.